Greetings to one and all. You are listening to MMJC Updates. In today's edition of MMJC Updates, we will be discussing about latest SEBI circulars, FAQs issued by National Stock Exchange, and about modification in e-forms issued by MCA. So, to guide us about SEBI circular, we have with us CS Mr. Vallabh Joshi from R&D team of MMJC.
Thank you, Rutuja. So the first part which we are going to see today is the SEBI circular. SEBI has recently issued a circular on transfer of physical shares. This circular is dated July 2nd, 2025. So just a brief background about this is that SEBI had from 1st April 2019 banned transfer of physical shares by listed companies. MCA had prohibited the same prior to that. With effect from 1st April 19, when SEBI prohibited this physical shares ban, it so happened that there were some entities, some individuals who had submitted physical share transfer forms to the listed companies, but due to this ban, the transfers could not be executed and they were returned back to the individual entities and shareholders. Now, post that, various representations were made to SEBI to allow that physical transfer of shares. So SEBI had opened for a brief period a window in 2021, allowing those physical transfer of shares. Now, again, after receipt of some more representations in that regard, SEBI has again opened a similar window, which was opened in 2021. For 6 months, they have opened now, which is from July 7, 2025 to 6th of January 2026, whereby physical share transfers that were submitted prior to 1st April 2019 but couldn't get transferred due to SEBI prohibiting physical transfer of shares from 1st April 19 are allowed to be relodged. So what shareholders will have to do is that they'll have to first see whether they had lost their physical share transfers prior to 1st April 2019. And if due to some reasons that had not got transferred before 1st April 19 and that got delayed or got transferred or were due for transfer post 1st April 19, and as there was a ban, it couldn't get transferred, they will have to relaunch those share transfers again with the listed companies. Listed companies will then transfer those shares in physical form, but issue those shares now in demat form. SEBI has, but this circular stated that even if the shares are transferred, the shares are taken in a physical form and transferred in physical form, but the new share certificates will be issued to the shareholder only in demat form. Accordingly, guidance has been given by SEBI in this circular to listed companies to advertise that window which will be available for the shareholders to relaunch the share transfers. There are certain compliances which listed entities have to do while this, and company entities and shareholders who want to relaunch transfers with the listed companies will have to keep a track when the window is being opened by the listed entity for relaunchment of the share transfers. At that point in time, these share transfers have to be submitted. Another important point here is that when I'm resubmitting the document or share certificates for physical share transfer, I have to submit that SH4, but it needs to be checked whether that SH4 which was lodged at the time in 2018-19 when it was not transferred, that same can again be relodged, or the shareholder will have to lodge a new SH4 for submitting the share transfers to the listed entity. Second thing is that now in today's scenario, if we look at the other provisions under Companies Act, it says physical share transfers are banned. Companies Act has also now stated that if you want to transfer shares, you will have to transfer it in demat form, or you have to ensure that the shares are in demat and then get it transferred. But the provisions of Companies Act under Rule 9A of Companies Prospectus and Allotment of Securities rules, it says those rules are applicable for unlisted public companies. So that is not applicable for listed companies. So in listed companies, SEBI has clearly stated that you submit the share certificates, will get it transferred, then the issue will be in demat form. So this process is in alignment with the provisions of Companies Act. The only point is that needs to be checked is submission of SH4 and the window which the listed entity will open as per this circular for taking those share transfer requests. So these two things need to be taken care of, and the physical share transfers which are still pending can get it transferred.
Thank you, sir. The next update pertains to FAQs issued by National Stock Exchange. Can you please guide us in that regard?
Yeah. March 2025, SEBI issued a circular and they changed the format of shareholding pattern. In the revised shareholding pattern format, SEBI has now stated that the details related to the fully diluted share capital through share-based benefits. So if I am issuing some share-based benefits to my employees through ESOP, ESPS, stock appreciation rights, once that gets converted or once that is exchanged with share capital, what would be the share capital of the company and share capital that would get issued through the convertible instruments. So these 2 points mainly were covered in the revised format. There were other points also like details of encumbrances, then what all encumbrances should covered and should be disclosed. That clarity also has been given by SEBI. Promoter and promoter group has to be shown. The names of promoter and promoter have to be shown irrespective whether they hold shares in the company or not. That is also clarified by SEBI. But the main concern which industry had was with respect to share-based benefits related information and shareholding through convertible instruments information. So there were a lot of questions raised to the stock exchanges as to when shall we consider the share-based benefits as part of convertible instrument, sorry, as part of share capital, or when can we consider it part of diluted share capital? When can we consider shareholding through convertible instruments as part of share capital? So there was no clarity or clarity was sought as there are stages in share-based benefits. One is granting, vesting, then the exercise, and then the shares are given to the employees. So now exchanges have clarified that if you are giving share-based benefits, then at the time of granting the stock options, the shareholding shall be considered as part of diluted share capital, and the details shall be mentioned in the shareholding pattern. In the same way, various scenarios where if it is granted, vested, lapsed, what would happen, and other details, all that have been provided by the NSE FAQs. Further, NSE FAQs are also given clarity on shareholding that should be accounted for, which is issued or will get converted into through convertible instrument issued by the company. Also, NSE in its FAQs has given details of promoter group, how it should be mentioned, when it should be mentioned, and the details related to convertible instruments. So these FAQs have provided the much needed clarity on the revised format. And as the due date for shareholding pattern is within 21 days from the end of the quarter, these FAQs would help us file that data correctly with the stock exchanges.
Okay. So the due date is just approaching and it is very much appropriate time for these FAQs to be released.
Yes, correct, Vidya.
Okay. So the next update now pertains to the e-forms issued by MCA, which are used by the companies. As we are already aware, MCA is in the process of shifting the e-forms from V2 portal of website to V3 portal. So in this process, MCA has already amended most of its important forms like AOC 4, MGT 7, and ADT 1, etc. In its furtherance of this process, it has amended 4 more forms. That is INC 22A, which is for filing, informing the ROC about the active status of the company. Form LEAP 1, which is filed with the ROC for intimating him about the listing of the company on IFSC stock exchanges. Then CFL1, which is filed for intimating the ROC about the details about the subsidiaries, layers of subsidiaries held by a company. And Form CSR1, which is for the registration of implementing agency with the ROC. So all these are basically one-time forms which have been amended by the ministry for the reason of shifting these forms from V2 to V3 portal. Like all other forms, these new forms also will be applicable from 14th of July. That is all in this edition of MMJC Updates. Thank you for listening to us and please feel free to write to us about your feedbacks.
Thank you, Rutuja.
Thank you, sir.